What's your scariest? I need to leave now. Gut feeling moment/story. I was driving home alone from a college party to the apartment I shared with my then boyfriend at 2 a.m. The car I had was shitty and couldn't handle the freeway, so I was taking a roundabout route home. It was maybe a 45-minute drive. I noticed shortly after I left the party that someone was following me, turn for turn. It was very apparent they were following me specifically after I took many turns, and we were nearing my apartment. I didn't want whoever was following me knowing where I lived, so I tried to lose them. It didn't work. Instead, I decided to pull into the cop station that was a couple of blocks from my apartment. They were well lit and open. The dude following me drove away very quickly, and I had a cop follow me all the way home to make sure I made it back in one piece. I don't know why they were following me, but the fact they'd been following me since I left campus meant they probably didn't have any good intentions. Different situation, but your story reminded me of something that happened to me in college. I lived in an off-campus apartment and often had to walk late at night from work or the library, since the bus didn't go past my apartment. I was walking home late one night and passed two guys walking in the other direction. Shortly afterwards, I had to cross the train tracks, and there was fencing on the sidewalk that sort of forced you to go in this zigzag pattern. So I saw behind me, and I saw that these same guys had turned around and were now following me. I tried to tell myself that it probably had nothing to do with me, and maybe they had forgotten something at home and had to go back. But something just felt off. There weren't many options to get away, since it was a stretch of road without a lot on it. I did go across the street into a well-lit parking lot and crossed it diagonally as if I was heading towards the neighborhood behind it. I sort of hid behind this building out of their line of sight, and as I rounded the building carefully on the other side, I saw them walking towards where I would have appeared to be headed. I walked the next 10 minutes home in a different direction, looking behind me constantly, and got home without any further issues. I still don't know their intentions or whether it was just a coincidence, but I'm glad I followed my gut and was careful. There are far too many stories of women being attacked on or around campus at night. Just happened to me, I was in Las Vegas for a work event, and I went to taking an elevator up to my room on the 44th floor. When I got on, there was already one man who had pushed floor 27. As the doors were closing, two guys shouted, "Hold the doors," from the hall. But the man who was in the elevator with me was pushing the door close button. The two guys from outside the elevator managed to stick their arm between the doors at the perfect moment to open the doors back up and get on. The two men who just got on pushed floor 32. As we went up, the doors at floor 27 opened, but the first man didn't get off. This was a floor he had chosen before I even got on. The elevator stopped at floor 30, and one person got on and pushed the button to floor 40. Floor 32 came. The doors opened, and the two men asking to hold the doors got off. Meanwhile, the first man is still on the elevator. He kept looking at me, and I just got a bizarre feeling. He wouldn't stop staring at me even when I was giving him mean looks. So when floor 40 opened, I got off with the person who pushed that floor's button. I was pretty freaked out at this point. So I actually went to the lobby and got a hotel worker to take me up to my floor. This whole deal was probably another 10 minutes when I finally reached my floor with the hotel worker. We took a hall that curved, and once we rounded that curve, I saw that man who was originally in the elevator with me that was staring. Looked like he was just pacing the hallways. I told the hotel worker that was the man who I was concerned over, and they called security to come get him while the hotel worker and I went back down to the lobby and waited till it was clear. I'm not sure of anyone's malicious intentions in this situation, but I wasn't going to mess around and find out as a younger petite woman. Walking to my now wife's place in East London in the early 2000s. Sunday afternoon was eerily quiet. I passed under a sky crane that looked like it was being raised to a higher level. I remember thinking that if that collapsed on a busy day, there would be carnage. I booted it to my partner's place and sat down to watch an old black and white movie. Across the bottom of the TV screen, a news flash came across. The crane I walked under had collapsed, killing 3 people. To this day, it freaks me out. I was a little kid living in a low-income, crappy apartment complex. I was walking home from the store one day with my kid sister and noticed a weird guy following us like 6 feet behind. I started weaving through the apartment buildings, and he followed. We were freaked the F out, and I told my kid sister that we absolutely couldn't go to the building we actually lived in because he'd know where we lived. We hauled but to the apartment manager's office and told the woman inside we were being followed. They let us hide in the bathroom and called the cops. Unexpected from low-income housing, but the woman inside had kids, so she took it seriously. The cops came and took down our description of the guy, but they didn't look for him immediately. The lady let us stay until our folks got back from work. A week later we saw cops, and the dude got taken away in handcuffs on our way home from school. I guess he also lived in the complex and was beating his own children. I don't know if anything was happening to us, but it was the 90s, and stranger danger was still shoved on kids where I lived, so he triggered my fight or flight. I'm very grateful the lady in the office believed us. Scary stuff. During college, I had procrastinated and had a paper due in the morning that I had barely started. When I would do this to myself, my typical remedy would be to head to the library and pull an all-nighter. It was maybe a 10-minute walk from my house, just off campus. I'm making decent progress as the night goes on, but I'm just feeling mentally burnt, and my gut is telling me I'll be more productive if I get a few hours sleep. The library started to feel uncomfortable for some reason. I packed up and left, walked home, and as I'm stepping out on the back porch to smoke a J before bed, I hear a not-too-distant pop-pop-pop sound. As my phone began to blow up a few moments later, I found out that quick pop-pop-pop was the school police taking down a school shooter. Shortly after I'd left, he had walked into the library, shooting and paralyzing one student just outside, a hero who managed to call 911 before passing out, and shooting a few others inside before going outside for suicide by cop. Campus was a wreck for a few days. Many other times I had stayed through the night, often popping outside for a quick break in the same area where the first student was shot. So I guess it may not count as scariest in the moment, since it was just a tired feeling and gut feeling of needing to lay down for a while rather than imminent danger, but thought I'd share. I've posted this before, but this applies here. My brother and I always got to spend a Friday night at my grandmother's house. Looked forward to it every week. She lived close to town. I had friends in the neighborhood. We'd all play baseball or hide and go seek. So Grandma's house was where we always wanted to be. One night after supper and my parents were getting ready to leave, I just had this strange feeling and asked my mom if I could go home that night. I have no idea why I wanted to go home. It was the summertime. I got to eat chips and watch TV with my mom and dad before going to bed. My bedroom shared a wall with the living room. I heard my mom say my dad's name rather frantically. I got out of bed to see what was going on. My dad was sleeping on the couch and snoring really loud. My mom couldn't wake him up. She yelled at me to go back to bed, but I did not do that. I went to their bedroom to use the phone to call 911, moved the call to the living room so they could talk to my mom. I sat on the floor holding my dad's hand and kept telling him I loved him. Ambulance arrives with my grandparents following behind it. It turns out my dad took a lot of pills. The doctor told my mom that if I didn't call 911 when I did, my dad wouldn't have been all right. All because my gut was telling me to go home for the night instead of a fun-filled night with Nanny and Gramps. I was on a small Horizon Airlines flight, sitting on the window of one of those small flights that are just 2 seats per row. After I get settled, an older guy sits next to me. The entire flight, we don't say a word, but he does give me a funny look when I ask for a beer to drink. We land. Folks start deplaning. It's one of those small flights/airports where you can exit from both the front and the back. Folks around us start shuffling off. This dude is just sitting there looking straight ahead. Doesn't move a muscle. At first, I just assume he doesn't know our ex is behind us. I lightly tap him on the shoulder, politely tell him we can go. The dude turns to look at me with the most intense face and quietly says, "I don't converse with liars." I don't know what it was, maybe his low but intense tone. Girl instinct kicked in, and all the hair stood up on my arm. I realized that it was pinned in by this guy. He is too big to get around. Fewer and fewer people are on the plane. This guy is just radiating this intense, mean aurora. I tried to press the attendant call light, but it was too loud for anyone to hear it. Finally, this nice man caught my eye and basically forced this guy to let me up. I don't know what happened to him, because I literally ran through to the pickup point, but I'll never forget feeling helpless and trapped in those 5 to 10 minutes. Oh, I posted this a long time ago, but I'll retell the story. So I was hiking around in some woods in suburban Dallas before I moved out here to California about a decade ago. Oak Point Park, it's called in Plano. And I was just walking around catching lizards, looking for snakes, and smoking weed. So I hear a cat start mewing when it was getting pretty late 7:30 in the summer. I was thinking if I found a cat, I might get a reward. I've done that before. So I start looking, and it's just right out of where I can directionally hear it. So I know it's close. Then I give up because I just couldn't find it. I stop to piss, and I hear it really loud, and I look across this clearing, and there was some raggedy-looking dude, and right when I made eye contact with him, he mewed at me, and I freaking dipped out. This happened to me in a pet store, but instead of a raggedy dude, it was an African gray parrot. Jerk laughed at me, too. Just after Thanksgiving, friend and I were driving up a mountain on a narrow gravel road to hike to a peaceful and stunning overlook. We got stuck behind a powder blue rusty 90s Ford truck, going a little faster than idle speed, and began to get frustrated. We rounded a turn and saw there was a small old dog running alongside the truck. The truck stops, opens the driver's side door, and the dog hops in. We both then felt bad for thinking bad things about the driver. He must have just been looking for this dog. The truck starts up again, and after several hundred feet, the truck pulls over to the left side to allow us to pass. As we pass the driver is an older man with missing teeth, dead eyes, and straggled hair. We locked eyes in slow motion, and he had the most evil, hateful look on his face. A shiver went down my spine, and the hair went up on my neck. I joked with my friend to break the tension in the car. Well, that's not terrifying. He definitely would kill us. We enjoy a lot of dark humor. I look in the rear view mirror, and he is still watching us. He has an 8-point deer skull tied to the front bumper. We shook it off and didn't think much of it after that. In the South, you get all sorts of folk around these mountains. We get to the small parking area and hike the short distance to our spot. To my knowledge, the way we took was the only trail available to get to the overlook. We arrived, excited we had the place completely to ourselves and enjoyed the view. We were glad we chose the smaller public mountain overlook than the much larger, but more crowded one further up the mountain. We talked and reminisced old memories, traded war stories about jobs. It was a perfect afternoon before she had to fly back home. We had been there for about 20 minutes when suddenly we heard a jingle coming toward us. It was the old dog about 50 feet away. Then we see the shadow of that man barreling toward us, behind the dog from a different direction than the path we took. We both shoot up from our spots, and after exchanging a look, my friend says, "We need to get the heck out of here." She starts running back up the path we took, and I'm right behind her. It was hard to hear from the crunch of leaves, but we both agreed. He said, "Hey, get the hell back here." I looked back, and the dog was at his side. He was not yelling at the dog. There were his hateful dead eyes again, realizing we weren't going to be polite and stick around. We'll never know what the hell that man wanted, but we both felt that internal panic that every woman knows. I've never been back to that spot again, but I'll be sure I'm not alone. I went to Nashville for a concert with a friend. We got into a taxi, this was right before Uber took off, and directed the driver to our motel. For a while he just made small talk. Very friendly guy. He was one of those people that come off a little lonely and a little socially awkward. The hotel was about 30 minutes away. He was sort of exhausting, and I was already looking forward to being out of the car. About 10 minutes in, he says, "Motel 6, huh?" I heard they had bed bugs. I actually had checked recent reviews because this is one of my fears. So I said that. He said, "Oh, no, they probably still do," and keeps really pushing the point. I said I knew how to check for them, and if they do, we will move. He says, "Well, why don't you girls stay with me and my wife?" And he goes on about how much better and comfier and safer it would be. In the South, you do have people who would totally offer this, be sane and okay. He was a bit older. So at first, I just thought he was a bit behind the times. But then he kept pressing the point and making us uncomfortable. He finally said, "Nothing would happen to you." I got chills. I said our friend and her boyfriend were expecting us at the motel. I said, "In fact, that reminds me I need to call and see if they're there so we will know if we need to get the room key from the office." Those friends didn't exist. So I called my mom and asked her a question that is code for "I'm in trouble," and she played along until he was convinced. I think if we'd gone with him, we'd have never been heard from again. Or at best, we'd have woken up somewhere violated. Went to a park near my house with the intention of smoking a joint. There was this big, empty stretch of grass, sandwiched between a playground and a soccer field. I was getting ready to spark up. Then I see a disheveled-looking white guy slumped over in front of the public bathroom. I think nothing of it. Sometimes there are junkies at this park. I'm about to take the pre-roll out of my pocket. Then I get this weird, "I need to leave now" feeling. I look back. The dude is stumbling to his feet and starts screaming gibberish. He starts running at me and yells, "You B with the red hair." I had just dyed my hair and there was nobody else around. So I booked it and started running towards a soccer field where some kids were playing. I approached this random middle-aged woman who was walking in the direction of the crazy dude. I tell her, "Hey, that dude is unstable. Don't go there." And she immediately turns around and walks with me. She says to me, "My son's soccer practice is about to end. You can stay with me until he goes away." The kids start walking off the field and getting into their parents' cars. Then the crazy dude emerges from the bushes and is screaming some more gibberish about 9/11 and how the city is being dirted by brown people. Almost everyone at this park is Indian or Middle Eastern. Everyone is understandably put off by this. The crazy dude picks up a rock and throws it at someone walking by. Didn't hit them. Then out of nowhere, this dude throws himself on the hood of a car that is leaving the area. The dad in the car with his two kids revs the engine and turns on the windshield wipers. The crazy dude falls on the sidewalk and they drive away. At some point during the chaos, people called 911 and several cop cars showed up within minutes. At this point, I decided to go home. Later, I checked the Nextdoor app, and it turns out that this man was reportedly involved in a heated confrontation at a nearby McDonald's and flashed a handgun at the other person. When the police were called, he made a run for it and ended up at the park. He was arrested there, and they found a loaded handgun and several magazines of ammo in his backpack. Could have easily been a mass shooting situation based on the way he was acting. TLDR, went to a park to smoke weed, got yelled at and chased by a tweaker who was harassing others in the area, jumped on a guy's car, threw rocks at people, and ended up having a gun the whole time. This guy my age used to come into my work regularly. He would chat with me and my co-worker and was very friendly. We ended up exchanging numbers and going out to the same bar one night. He was a large guy, tall and just generally big. It was getting late, and he wanted to leave. I did not want to go home with him as I saw him as a friend. The bar was so busy, full of people. He grabbed my wrist and tried to lead me through the crowd out the doors. I tried to pull away several times to go find my friends / get away. I told him I need to find my friends. Tried to tell him I needed to go to the bathroom. He insisted we go and would squeeze tighter. I got a horrible gut feeling and knew I needed to get away from him. Thankfully, we were in a very crowded place, so I kept continually pulling my hand away and finally got my wrist loose. I saw my friend, and we went into the bathroom. I told her we needed to leave. I don't know why, but I just got this horrible feeling that I had to get out of there and couldn't forget the grip he had on my wrist. He was standing by the door waiting for me, but her, and I snuck through people and ran away. We were staying in a hotel nearby for a friend's birthday, and we ran the entire way there. I was out hunting with my son. He was 10 at the time. We were walking an old logging road to a cut block in a pretty overgrown area. We got to the trail leading to the cut block and started in. We got about 30 yards when I stopped dead in my tracks. I didn't think to stop. My body just did it on its own. I had my hand on my kid's chest. My hair was standing on end, and I'm trying to figure out what was going on. This all happened in a split second. My instincts were screaming run. That's when I looked up and saw the ass end of a grizzly with last year's cub about 10 to my right in the underbrush. The air that was in my lungs decided to leave, making a noise, and it spooked the both of them. They exploded through the bush away from me, spun the kid around, and hightailed it out of there. Got back to the truck, and the kid said, "Thought we were going hunting?" He hadn't noticed what happened or saw anything, completely oblivious. On the drive home, I think I realized I smelled a bear. If you've been around them, they have a very distinct smell, and my caveman brain kicked in. Not the last time I walked in on a grizzly, but the closest call I've ever had. If she had seen us first, it would have been over before I could have done anything. Still get the shiver thinking about how close that was.